alignment has improved with all of that strengthening of the muscles in my lower back.
For renewal.
Go to the VA and I was taking
Really? I thought he
physical therapy class. I haven't really hurt my back. And I try not to do too much training. And I left that.
And the other
I am good. Sharon,
nothing
please.
happens for months. You think you're cured, and then that you just overstep it by that little tiny bit, and bam, you're out.
But I want to start going to that little chiropractor. $29 for the spine.
On the 15th, I was late calling in, and then I was here at the last meeting. I was at the last meeting. I was at the meeting before.
Yeah, sorry.
I had to use two computers in order to get it to work for that Zoom call. I could see, but I couldn't.
I think so. Yes, I am.
Good, good.
See on the, I could hear.
He and I had an opportunity to have lunch.
Oh.
He gave me a heads up. He would get. What? Like it or not?
Tammy, she works economic development. And she's gonna give us a story, on all that land over there where the industrial park is. They call it the Blythewood Industrial Park, but it's really Richland County. Oh, yeah, I agree. What are these for?
Are we going to live stream this?
Yeah. I didn't either.
When I texted me,
Wait a minute, huh? Oh, it's asking the question, have you completed your question yet?
Was that what it is?
It's an opener.
I thought maybe you had to do it, have you had your shot? Or vaccination.
Hey, that'll work too.
I like it.
Mr. Steve, are you set to go? Thank you, sir.
Miss Middleton is supposed to be joining us through Zoom, but does anyone have her phone number? She hasn't tried to log into the Zoom yet, so I just didn't know. She got the link.
Nope, just her email. Will you let me know if she joins us, please, Sterling? Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so let's call to order the meeting of April 5th of the Town of Blythewood's Planning Commission for 2001. Thank everybody for joining us this evening. And can we do a roll call, please? Here?
Here.
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 Thank everybody for joining us. And just for the record, Ms. Middleton may be joining us over social media, and if she does, we will make sure the minutes reflect that. Staff has done proper notification and posting of the agenda. Is that correct, Ms. Melissa? Thank you very much. Everybody received the agenda via email. Again, thank you, staff, for getting that out to all of us. and hope everybody has had a chance to review it. If there are no additions or deletions, do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and the agenda is adopted. And now we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. And I'll take a moment here to thank Ms. Tiffany Harrison for being here with us from Richland County. We appreciate you being here. And Councilman Donald Brock is also with us this evening, so thank you for being here, Mr. Brock. We have two sets of minutes to approve, one from our regularly stated meeting of March 1st, 2021, and the second set from our special called meeting on March 15th of 2021. And since those were two separate meetings, I'm going to approve these individually. So hopefully everybody has had a chance to read through those. Any changes, additions, or deletions to the March 1st, 2021 minutes?
Question, Mr. Chairman. Under the heading of deletions on the stakeholder questionnaire, there's a section that's highlighted in red. Can you just explain what the intention of that is, whether we need to delete that from the minutes or to record the fact that it was there but it's not included in the questionnaire? Is that my understanding?
I believe so. The reference from Mr. Gorge is on page 3 near the bottom of the page. That paragraph is how town council, the verbiage she gave us to put in the survey, and we just reduced down some examples that were given. So I believe staff shown it as it was originally written, and then what we as a planning commission struck from that. So at least in my reading of it, that's how I read that. So I believe that would be correct.
In that case, I'll move that the minutes are adopted as presented, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and now the special call meeting of March 15th, 2021, same. Going to see if we can get these approved. Any additions or deletions from those or questions? That was a very brief meeting, actually.
Make a motion they be approved as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Presentations this evening, we have one, and for that, I will turn it over to Mr. Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, last meeting, Planning Commissioner Gorge asked for an update on the Richland or the Blythewood Industrial Park. So I asked Tiffany Harrison from the Richland County Economic Development Office to come, and she fortunately was available and willing to come give us several updates on the project. So if you all don't have any questions, I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you. Welcome.
The Deputy Director at the Richland County Economic Development Office. I'm going to go between my reading glasses and no reading glasses. And this presentation is for you guys, so feel free to ask questions. I mean, I know, the idea is we're going to give you an update on what we have going on at the Blythewood Industrial Park, which is kind of what we're calling it now. Name to be determined. That's going to happen here soon when we start doing all of our marketing materials for the industrial park. This map behind you guys, let's get screens here, and behind you, this probably looks familiar. I think that when we were going through the zoning process and when we were getting ready to purchase this property, I think we brought this map up here several times. So hopefully that looks familiar. The county, just to refresh everybody's memory here, the county purchased approximately 1,349 acres back at the end of 2019 to develop as a Class A industrial park. one thing that we know is in order to be successful and to successfully recruit business and industry is we have to have a home for them. And we wanted to make a home up here in Blythewood that is complementary to the community. We understand that, Blythewood is a unique community and that, you guys have certain design aesthetics that you like to see. We feel the same way. We certainly work hand in glove with folks in the community as well as with council and some folks on the planning commission to make sure as we're moving forward with the master planning of this park and the ultimate development of the park that it's going to complement and add to the community of Blythewood. So we're really excited about that. We feel like we've got a great plan for this park. The first thing I'm going to talk about is if you see those 4 or so parcels outlined in red, those are the parcels that are fronted on Blythewood Road. Probably look pretty familiar. That's where the Sligo family home is. When we went through this master planning process with Thomas and Hutton, one of the things that we did when we were buying the property was we wanted to make sure that we controlled what the entrance to the industrial park looked like. So we planned on building out a process development. We wanted to make sure that entrance into the industrial park kept with that same feel. So the last thing we wanted to do was spend $26 million and then have an incompatible kind of use right in front of the industrial park. So that's about 100 acres that you guys see there in red. That property is designated for commercial development. The majority of that property has your town center's name on it. You guys may be familiar with kind of that process we went through last year, right? Rezoning some of it industrial, and then that property, most of that property is already been town center. So I'm excited. We've been talking about this for a while. I know I've talked to several of you about the idea of bringing someone in to help us decide and determine what do we do with that property. Jeff and I have said, I think you guys know Jeff Rubel, the director of our office. We said, listen, we know industrial development. This is something we understand. Commercial and retail development is not something we understand. We want to bring somebody in that can help us, again, come up with a plan for that commercial property that is going to complement and that is going to be something that the town of Blythewood is going to get behind and be supportive of. It's going to complement the community, but it's also going to help us be successful in attracting community outside. So we have been working with the Urban Land Institute, ULI. They have a program that's called TAP. It is a technical assistance panel. And what they do, they will bring in, they bring in a group of subject matter experts to solve and I'm saying this in quotes, to solve a problem. This is not a problem, but what we want is we want somebody to tell us, right, what's our best chance of development on this commercial property. So we have actually gone through our procurement process. I'm excited to say, and we are going to contact the ULI. They will be coming into the community now that we're past the kind of the worst part of COVID. I think sort of everybody feels like they're a little bit more inclined to do in-person meetings. Maybe I should say the worst part. Let me not say that. But people are more inclined to do in-person meetings. So the plan is that we are going to start this process early April with ULI. They're going to go ahead and identify the stakeholders that they're bringing into the community as subject matter experts. This is a process that we will be working through with the town of Blythewood. Have a conversation about it, and we'll certainly talk to council about it as well. So you guys are getting a little bit of a preview of something that maybe not everybody else has quite heard yet. But the idea is they will come into the community. Tentatively right now, we're looking at the meeting in person on May 19th and May 20th. We wanted to go ahead and have them come in and do the stakeholder interviews prior to summer vacation and prior to the holiday. So 3 or 4 subject matter experts will come. They will stay likely in one of the hotels here in town. We will ahead of time working with Blythewood identify key stakeholders. But then there will also be a public input session as well. And we'll provide some information as well on that. The idea is, again, go back to what it's not a problem, but the problem that they're solving for us is they're going to, hopefully at the end of this process, they will say, they're going to look at, what does the town of Blythewood have to do? What are you trying to attract in your town center zone? How has that been affected with COVID? I mean, what's happening with commercial and retail space now? I don't know the answer to that. This probably the most exciting thing I have to share from a planning standpoint. From an action standpoint, you guys may have seen a little bit of activity along Locklear Road. We have received a funding from our partners at the South Carolina Department of Commerce, Deerfield Electric Cooperative, and their statewide economic development marketing group, and it's the SE Power team. We've received a little over $2.3 million to go in and just see, it's kind of hard to tell, but there's a parcel 29 right below that building. Should go out for bid in the next couple of weeks, so I would expect that you guys will start seeing some construction activity third quarter this year. So those are kind of the two, again, some on the action side and on the planning side, things that we've been working on. You may have seen some activity. I think we had some questions about the Swigert House. I think you guys have seen it probably, the public works sign up there. That's temporary. They are not moving in there. It's not going to be, county-owned building, or we're not turning that into a permanent home for public works. But since they needed to spread out, they needed a satellite facility. And this was a good location. I think it gives them the opportunity to get a lot from up here in the temporary in nature. Our goal is to sell this property, so it's going to go to the that will not be done. And kind of the last update I have for you guys is, this is great property. We're really excited. It's right up about 77. I think you guys might have heard about a little project that we located last year, hard self zone, quite far. So that's on the southeast side of it. And that is huge for us. It's a huge investment, all about being there. We want to really capitalize on the we are working right now to create a marketing position. Part of it, very part of it. So we've been talking to them about creating that we can put out on Blythewood. She kind of wants to feel that announcement on that really helped us. We had our best year ever last year. 2020, we had the most amount of we were working hard, lots of great activity, all kinds of things, really great things, opportunities for us to work together. We great for everybody to be I'll stop for a minute. I talked a lot and probably really fast. I'm happy to answer any questions about anything you want to know that I've talked about or any other questions.
Thank you, Tiffany. It's always great to get an update from you and to have you explain your plans to us. I'm still very interested to know when the design review committee is likely to be set up. We've been talking about that for 18 months. I was still on town council when it was first mentioned. So what's your timeline for that committee to be set up, presumably after the ILI folks have done their thing? But what can you tell us about that?
Sure, absolutely. And I think from our standpoint, we sort of been doing these action steps that weren't ready, knowing that design review committee, that's more of a function of when we come to first. And making sure that we can compliant with our regulations on that. So not to say that it's absolutely something that we got to officially again have our council appoint members. The assumption will be that it will be probably the Economic Development Office that will be appointing. That would be our expectation. So that, while understanding that's something that you guys are very keenly interested in seeing, we haven't forgotten about it. It's just we're moving forward with some of these other activities, thinking that's just something that needs to be in place before that.
Just from a personal point of view, I'm just very interested to know how this project is developing, evolving, primarily because we're actively rewriting our comprehensive plan, and needless to say, this is a big chunk of that. It impacts on so many different aspects of the plan, so it's imperative that we keep in step with you guys.
Absolutely. We cannot agree more. I think when we came up here, I think the first meeting that we had with town council, we said, this is a partnership.
Right.
And we are not doing this in a vacuum. We want to be partners with the community. We are not coming up here to do something that, that anybody in the community wants. We feel like it brings great value to have the right kind of development taking place. And I think that's some of the conversations we've actually met a couple of different times with Williamson and had conversations, making sure that we're setting the stage with you guys have questions. I hope you know that you can always call us, but maybe it's just doing something formal. We come up with a presentation. Certainly, as you guys are going through that comprehensive update, it's important that we're all talking about the future of this development. I mean, I know you guys are looking bigger picture, but we're doing the same thing at the county level too. I mean, we're rewriting our plan as well. We've had conversations about making sure that we've got everything lined up for designated industrial areas, that the zoning matches what we're trying to accomplish. In a given area, and it's pretty hard to live. I think our commitment is to say the same thing. Call us if you have questions. We are in constant communication.
Very good.
A couple of questions. The star on Community Road, is that where we're seeing some activity already happening? Is that entrance right there, do you know? Well, okay. Okay. Let's say that last part. Oh, okay. And then, just like what Mr. Malcolm has already mentioned, is the fact that it seems as though we'll have gotten close to perhaps finishing the survey, but we won't have, I would assume that we would have not reviewed results from the survey that quick by the time you are already having conversations with the group about what is needed, the looks, and what is needed from the town perspective.
And we'll be pretty close. I believe we'll be pretty close on those dates, depending on how many of our stakeholder surveys are mailed in versus how many do it online. Staff was mentioning tonight that we can already pull down reports, look at different graphs. So I think if they do it online, that we can assimilate some of that information pretty quickly. Absolutely.
Yeah, mine also,
Tiffany, how many interests now are planned for the industrial park? Because it looks like it's been increased, which is fine. Okay. Oh, really? Okay. But the majority of it's going to be off of Blythewood Road as opposed to Community Road entrances to the park. Okay. Is there any apprehension about putting more entrances off the Community Road? Is there a reason? Yeah. Yeah, that's, okay. Okay, okay. That's the biggest drawback. Mm-hmm. Sure. That'll move a lot.
What's the acreage size of 25 through 28, the town center, commercial? About 100. Mhm. Oh, yeah. I think we will also want to be flexible on the number of curb cuts on Blythewood Road, because what may sound good, too, may turn out to be not good, depending on the development, and now you're backing traffic up on 2 versus 3 spread out. So again, like you said, I appreciate the fact that it's fluid, and depending on what sells and what develops and what is best for Blythewood as a whole. Community Road, if you put it on Community Road and it's going to head toward Blythewood, it's going to hit the roundabout versus people who are headed toward 321, making a left on Blythewood Road outside the juggernaut that we have right now. Correct. And then if people are trying to avoid that on Community Road, then they'll make a right, end up on Wilson, take Turkey Farm up, and then you're going to end up on Fulmer, headed back toward, exactly. So, you know, that's a lot of people potentially working on this piece of property as a whole. And thank you. Thank you.
How much further does this go down, Tiffany, towards the Wilson? When you show the park here? If you keep yeah. Okay, so you're going, okay,
Holly Bluffs.
okay. I'm seeing,
You meant
I'm seeing
south.
how far down towards Wilson Boulevard.
Right, which would be south.
Okay.
So the roads you see on the bottom, the dirt roads,
Yeah.
are phases 8 and 9 of Ashley Oaks on the very bottom, right behind plot 2, and then up at the very top left, that's the Bluffs. It's a big piece of property.
Big, yeah.
Other questions?
Great. Appreciate it, Tiffany. Thank you.
Really appreciate the update. Thank you.
Thank you.
A very helpful update. And it may be that we schedule these once a couple times a year until things get rolling, and then maybe quarterly or whatever the case may be.
And I can get Gregory to talk to Tiffany and make sure that that's incorporated into the plan for sure.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I would just recommend is that you look up Urban Land Institute, if you're not familiar with that group, that there's primarily commercial realtors, and but they have a branch in Columbia and several across the state and internationally. And they just have a great reputation for good urban design. So they do these, this is a pretty common, it's kind of one of their trademark things, that they will go into a community and try to find solutions, and they'll just kind of have their members in there from all across the country and to give their input on some. So it's pretty fortunate that we have them that interested, so I appreciate them thinking
and
ahead.
to that end, we may, I mean, obviously, we would, I think if Redgate passes second reading, then we will want to let ULI know, because it's literally right across the street.
Right.
We're adding potentially more town center zoning, so it's a much bigger, it probably doubles the size from 100 acres to almost 200 acres that could be planned together. If the property owner at Redgate is interested in that.
Right.
So, wouldn't want to let that slip by.
And Mr. Williamson, at one point.
Thank you, Tiffany.
The town was a member of ILI.
Okay.
I'm not sure that we maintain that membership, but certainly during my time on council, we were definitely members.
Good, yeah.
We actually came to a couple of chamber meetings, and it seemed to be a profitable relationship, and even more so now.
Okay. Well, you're way ahead of me then.
Okay, moving on to item 3 on our agenda. Letter A, stakeholder survey timeline. We have been working in conjunction with staff. If you can turn in your packet immediately after the minutes we've approved, you'll see a memo dated April 5th from the town. And Carol, do you want to handle this, and then we'll both talk about these dates down here?
Yeah, just give y'all an update on what we're working furiously these last few days to get this survey up and running. And so it's, I'm sure y'all are all aware, we got it on the Survey Monkey now, and hopefully you've completed the survey. But when we left the office this afternoon, there were 180-something responses. So just, I don't have a vast years of experience on planning, comprehensive planning, but to get 180 people to show up at a public input session is unheard of. So to get, and not be a 2-question survey, but a 31-question survey, I mean, and we have barely gotten out of the gate. We barely even started promoting this. So that certainly bodes well to the interest in the community, and so I think this will pay big dividends. So I'm excited to see the results. And I've looked at some. I mean, some of them are not just, check, encourage, or discourage. Some of them are actually, here are my concerns. And so then you get some really honest feedback. So I think it'll be very good. Let's see, just some other logistics associated with this. We were originally, and we may have talked with you about it, we're going to put paper surveys in the Voice and the Country Chronicle on April 15th, but it was just got to be cost prohibitive to mail. I mean, the post office just does not cut deals, and so it was going to be 55 cents for every self-addressed stamped envelope back, when that's not really the most common form of communication now. So instead, we're going to have a postcard. It's like a 5x8 postcard, and put that as an insert into all the newspapers on April 15th across 29016. So it would go far beyond the town limits, and then it will have a QR code on there. It will have the web address on there, and then our phone number, of course. So hopefully that will generate enough interest, and people be familiar with using the internet and the QR code and all that will be enough to get a response. And from what I've seen so far, I would think so. But if there's anything y'all see as gaps as this progresses, please let us know. And if you think that some sector of the community is not being reached, then we can certainly work on that. And we will print out copies of the survey to hand out. So more than happy to do whatever it takes to make sure we get maximum participation. And as you look at the dates, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I don't have anything else to add right now, so I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
A couple dates for Planning Commission. We've hit the important dates so far. The press packet I've discussed that with Ms. Ball at The Voice several times in preparation for the article to come out on the 8th and the subsequent postcard to be put in the paper on the 15th. We will be speaking at the Chamber Breakfast on the 13th. Appreciate the invite, Mr. Phil. And any of y'all who can make it, that would be great to have you there. We do have, and I set some on the table in front of you, buttons, the Have You buttons. The QR code on the button will take individuals straight to the survey. So if somebody says, hey, what's your button all about? Just ask them to take their phone out, snap a picture of that QR code if they have not done the survey. I have gotten a couple calls concerning members of a household. Do we want a husband and a wife both to fill this survey out? And absolutely, the question to that is absolutely, because they both have opinions on what is best for the town of Blythewood. We tried to cover all these dates the best we could. We are going to have a tent at the farmer's market every Wednesday through the survey period, with both paper surveys available as well as the QR code. I will probably have, I'm still working out a few logistics, but I will have iPads available for people to take the survey right there at the farmer's market if they live in 29016 and would care to do so. We can look at the data as it comes in. I've not seen it, but from what I'm reading on SurveyMonkey, it is almost instant when somebody enters a survey, then you're allowed to sort and begin looking at that data, which will be very, very helpful as we move forward with the COG. My personal goal was to have 100 surveys filled out by the 15th, and that was the pre-launch goal with staff, commissions, boards, to just get a head start on the public seeing it. So possibly The Voice could say we already have 100 surveys filled out, and we have far exceeded that already. Those of you who live in neighborhoods that or serve on HOAs, if you're interested in passing out postcards or putting them in mailboxes, or if you have a newsletter, please either get with myself or Sarah Lynn. That is a big push, would be HOAs within 29016, as well as individual homeowners. We just don't want to focus on neighborhoods. So our soft close for the survey will be May 15th, and then any survey received by May 15th will be eligible for one of the gift cards going to be handed out by Town Hall. June 1st, we're classifying that the hard close of the survey, and we'll already have most of the data in, but obviously we don't want to turn anybody away that wants to fill one of the surveys out. I have a copy of what the insert will look like. It'll be a little smaller than this, but I have a copy of it. And then the paper survey, which I believe Sarah Lynn did this.
The printing company.
Print company did
Yeah.
this. It's very well done, and we certainly appreciate staff guiding that through the printer. I will have a lot of copies of these. The printer's going to print some for us, and I will have copies available. If I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but if you haven't already completed the survey, it's straightforward, 31 questions, and takes about 10 minutes to complete. So please do it if you have not already done so, and encourage anybody that is within your reach to do the same. So we really want to see this come to a successful close. So it's a big deal, and a lot of time and effort has went into it, and we'll really have a big push here starting April 15th. Any questions on that? I have, if you know restaurant owners, store owners, retailers, anybody within Blythewood that'll wear a button, I've got plenty of them. Get them from me. And we really are going to ask people to start wearing buttons on April 15th, so it just makes sense as everything rolls out that we're all kind of coordinated on that. Questions on the stakeholder survey? Great. Okay, Mr. Williamson, the Town Center District Land Use.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as the acreage that has increased either is already approved or is facing second reading to Town Council, Town Center has just grown so much. I just thought it would be a good idea to look at that and make sure that, sometimes you just go along, you don't look closely at what all the uses are that would now be permitted or conditionally permitted or have to go to a special exception. So I thought it would be just really what my intent is for the Planning Commission to look at what's in the ordinance and what's prohibited and what's permitted, and have a discussion, and then, if necessary, make recommendations for a text amendment if you think any of that is warranted, and really just for tonight, just to take a look at it and get familiar with it, and discuss it, and then make recommendations to staff would be, I think, just a periodic good exercise in these uses.
Is there any areas that you suspect or know are in question or unclear or missing from the list? That kind of prompted you into
The question came up about residential and multifamily residential there, so which is just outright permitted, whereas in some of the other commercial zoning districts, it's got some restrictions. That's one thing to look at, I think. And then, and like we've said before, it does go to Board of Architecture review, so the design is very well addressed, so which is great, because normally that is what's mainly lacking. And you look at what, I don't know if you're familiar with form-based codes, but they really look at what is it, not so much about the uses as what does it look like, and does it match the character. And so I think that's, you already kind of have that established here, which is very fortunate. So it's sort of matching what is a common trend. Some others that I highlighted would be just to look at were body piercing establishment, tattoo parlor, pawn shop. It says tobacco, but vape shops, you could specify in more detail. Because obviously, I don't think there were vape shops around when this was written. That has been restricted in some other towns and cities. Bar, nightclub, cocktail lounge, things that usually get attention. Let's see. Then automobile parking lot, I think is fine, but car wash or car sales are not permitted, but car wash are just, I don't know, I have no real opinion on any of these right now, just so much as knowing that those are areas that have been restricted in other jurisdictions. So I just think it's worth looking at. So those are the main ones that I highlighted. But
I've had inquiries about self-storage in the town, and
isn't it
I
prohibited?
I couldn't see it in the list. It may be there.
Yeah, I saw mini warehouses.
Yeah.
And
It is there.
It's prohibited, I believe.
mini warehouses are prohibited.
Yeah, that's what I would classify them as. Yeah.
So as we begin to look at town center, as Tiffany even addressed us this evening, which was no surprise, we knew in that Blythewood Industrial Complex, there was town center property. And town council is going through, upon our recommendation, rezoning property right across Blythewood Road. I want to start with a caveat of this is an exercise that we've spoke on going through several times in town center, not driven totally by Redgate. So this planning commission recommended to town council rezoning Redgate D1, which failed at the town council level because it had been recently purchased by a local family. And town council sent that back to us and subsequently sent the zoning they're dealing with now. I just want to be very clear. This is within planning commission's purview, and staff has recommended we take a look at this for obvious reasons. A group has been hired by the county to look at how they're going to use town center. The Redgate property and the owners are going to look at how they're going to use potential town center that has to pass one more reading. This is right in the wheelhouse of planning commission. This is what we do. So with staff's help, this exercise is great.
Yeah, and I just do want to clarify some questions about like non-conforming, creating non-conforming structures. So, for instance, a pawn shop that would continue to exist until it went out of business for a period of 6 months. And of course, a new owner could come in with the same use and continue that, within the 6 months. But once has not been had that use for 6 months, it cannot come back. Now, if it's destroyed, they have a certain amount of time to build back or get a building permit or something. There's some language in the ordinance about that, that it was no fault of their own, but obviously would give them the ability to build something back for sure, but within the restrictions in the ordinance. But but it would just say no further ones, and that's check cashing. I believe that is prohibited too, but that's something that I've seen is pretty common.
So as an example of that, we have, there's a liquor store beside Blythewood Pharmacy. There's a liquor store in IGA. Both those properties are town center.
Mm-hmm.
If either of those closed,
Mm-hmm.
and we change town center to prohibit those,
Right.
if they close for longer than 6 months, they could not reopen in a town center zoning.
Correct.
If they burnt down, obviously, they could rebuild.
That's right.
But would have to do so in the same location.
Correct. Yeah. Let's see, the ordinance specifically says, let's see. Non-conforming structure shall not be rebuilt, altered, or repaired except in conformity with this chapter after sustaining damage or necessitating repair exceeding 50% of the replacement cost of the structure at the time of damage or wear, provided that any permitted construction shall begin within 6 months from the time of damage or notice of wear and shall be completed within 12 months after the issuance of a building permit. That is more restrictive than I've seen in others in terms of the 50%. But nevertheless, that does give them some ability to put back what was there. So,
And the current owner of what we're referring to as Redgate own and operate Capital City Cycles on Two Notch Road. So under the current town center zoning, would it be staff's opinion that if they wanted to a satellite store and/or relocate Capital City Cycles, would it be allowed in town center zoning, in your opinion?
Yeah, I would have to do a little more research on that because it is different in terms of a surface lot covered. You know, that's what I think is considered when you say auto sales are obviously not going to be inside of a building, but you have to look at that and put some restrictions on it. Say, you know, a certain, you know, can't be outdoor sales, or can only be a certain percentage can be outdoor sales. I would have to do some more research to give you kind of what the general classification is, but it's not spelled out in the ordinance, so you could all, you know, just make that clear in the text amendment.
When you ride up 20 and you pass Thunder Tower, that's a Harley Davidson shop, and they don't do any outside sales.
Right, and so I wouldn't think that would be in the same, you couldn't classify them the same.
I mean,
But it would need to be defined, I think, more clearly, because that is a somewhat vague, and so.
Of all the calls and concerns I've gotten with the Redgate property, that has to be the number one concern, and I know town council is certainly batting that around between first and second readings, but I wanted, from a planning commission standpoint, just to say what the concern is. From what I'm hearing,
Right.
The property owner currently owns something that we would question whether we want in that town center zoning, and if it's overall town center zoning that has to be looked at, well, now's the time to do that, and that would be Redgate specific. But it would also be Richland County specific if their contractor comes in here and says, you know, this would be a great spot for Mercedes of Columbia. Well, that's of concern for Blythewood. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we got to pay attention to that. Other questions? Is it your goal to start taking a look at this, have a process, narrow it down? What's the end game?
I think it would be good at the next meeting to have some, if Planning Commission has some guidance, and then from there, then staff can draft a text amendment based on that. Unless there was, you know, significant input now that we could work towards, but that's what I was thinking, was just because this was just being introduced as a discussion item.
Rich, don't you think it would be good for us, members here on the commission, to take a look at this between now and the next meeting? Go through every item, particularly the ones that are highlighted, and, you know, just make a comment in the margin, what we would like to see changed, and then, or whatever,
Absolutely.
or deleted. And then when we come back to the meeting, the first Monday of May, let's allocate time to go through this. If it takes us a half an hour, it's an hour, it's an hour. But that way we can go through it and come up with kind of a universal recommendation on the commission as what we see needs to be changed in the town center zoning.
Yeah, I think that's the road both Mr. Williamson and I was thinking. Now on his, in the packet you have before you, he highlighted all permitted uses.
Right.
I went and got the zoning table, and I highlighted the ones I had, similar to what you're saying, the ones I had an issue with some questions. So if we could do that, say, over the next 3 weeks and get it to Carol prior to our meeting, he could have a list of action items on our docket, so we're not losing yet another month.
Okay, you want, okay, we can give, okay.
I mean, maybe have an email.
Yeah,
a group
absolutely.
Email,
Yeah.
Then we can,
Also with the industrial park
Mhm.
and those items being town center as well, if we can get the square footage on those four parcels or items,
Which make up the 100 acres, is that what you're going to?
so that's, from what I understand, is part of what we can consider town center. We gotta say that. So, because I think a lot of what you're gonna, I mean, from the size of what Ms. Tiffany was saying, I think those are gonna be out over what we have allotted here.
Right.
So, you know, just trying to think of like what would go in those boxes as
Right.
well, you know.
Yeah, I don't think this has to do with just Redgate. I think
No.
this has to do with.
Oh, yeah.
It has to do with the 100 acres that are out front there on the, what they call Blythewood Industrial Park.
And also here, you know, I mean, right here in this side of interstate, because, I mean, just keep that in mind.
When
And
was the last time this was updated anyhow? Just out of curiosity.
the ordinance, for my time.
It'll be on the docket, but if you look it up, it's probably years ago.
Yeah, I will say, the intent is following the comprehensive plan to do a rewrite of the zoning ordinance. So you know, I'd probably say at least 10 years and more than that. But let's see. Group developments, just looking at the ordinance, these are things, specific developments that do come back to the planning commission. So I just, since there's not been a whole lot of development recently where you're just getting a lot of exercise in this, but just, and it has some other criteria in here, not just, it really about design and traffic. But it's any commercial or industrial development that has a single building that's 25,000 square feet or greater. Housing, group housing development consists of 2 or more separate dwellings or 3 or more dwelling units on a single lot. Group housing developments that has triplexes, quadruplexes, townhouses, apartments, all come back to get approval from planning commission separately. Public and institutional developments, such as schools, hospitals, nursing homes, a single building containing 25,000 square feet of floor space. I think it's the same as above. So, just so y'all, that's just an additional review that y'all have. I guess the most likely one that y'all would see is because of, well, you know, all the different types of housing, and then anything over 25,000 square feet. Because some of these, like you're pointing out, you know, the 40,000, it'll be a restriction of 40,000. Well, at 25,000, it may be permitted, but it still has to come to the planning commission. So it's a lot of, you guys are hands-on a lot of significant development. So.
We already have what's going, assisted living complex already in the works and being laid, groundwork's already being laid out, right?
That's correct. And they've started construction on that.
Yes.
And the hotel is supposed to be completed.
August is my understanding. I know there's been some delay, but that's the last I heard was August. Yeah, though it looks pretty complete, the exterior, so I would
Once you
hopefully
get on the
before then.
inside, it'll slow you down a little bit.
Yeah, but,
Well, supplies.
right.
The
Exact
ever-going
supply chain.
issue right now.
By beds.
Yeah.
Single-family attached residential,
Mm-hmm.
is there any language in here? I know it is permitted, and then it refers you to 155.181. Is there specific language as far as single-family attached in TC?
There is, I'm not directly familiar with it. I have to look it up myself. I apologize.
And I didn't have time to
Yeah.
pull that specific language, but certainly will. Okay, I think that's a good plan, and if commissioners could spend some time with this list as it pertains to town center zoning as well as it pertains to the comprehensive plan, because what we will do it'll be in at least a 10-year plan that we're trying to put forward. So, and I think this has to at least be 10 years old,
Yeah.
these classifications. Okay, other questions? We appreciate staff putting that together, and we will send you some emails so we can try to get to an action item in May, and maybe get something before council as surveys roll in and Richland County's rolling. There's potentially 2021 is going to be a big year.
Yeah, and I do want to remind you, I think at the last joint meeting, with the town council that the mayor requested to have those quarterly, so doesn't seem like very long ago, but that's it's coming up May, will be another joint meeting, so.
Good.
Yep, good, very beneficial. Any other comments by Planning Commission? Before we move to open citizens' comments, only have 2 citizens joining us tonight. Any comments? No one signed up, so if there are no other comments or concerns by commission, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much.